Hey, grace and peace, everybody. I want to talk about Christians and science. A lot of people are a little bit confused far as our position as believers. I seen something, and I made a video a few months back about Dr. Reggie. He met a brother that was a Christian. He said, "Oh, well, you're a Christian. You don't believe in science." There are certain things that the conscious community and unbelievers in general feel about Christians. First of all, we have, and I think they don't speak to enough believers. First of all, we have Christians from all walks of life, all educational backgrounds, some very educated and some not as educated as others, and this is just a fact. We have Christians that believe in evolution and what we would call, some would call, the gap theory, and we have Christians that don't believe in evolution whatsoever. We have some Christians that believe that Abraham and certain people in the Old Testament, or certain patriarchs, are myths, or it's not as important to the redemptive story if the oral tradition is not right and exact, historically speaking. So you have all type of believers, but I want to talk about science specifically, and Christians, even though we may differ on a lot of things. When we deal with science, we put science in its proper place, the way science is, and it's just the study of anything. The way it is, the parameters can always change. One minute, scientists will tell you that it's okay to drink milk. It's good to drink milk. Next minute, they'll tell you no, milk is no good. One minute, scientists say the world is flat, and they say the world is round. Some are saying the world is flat again. I'm surprised that there are so many people with degrees that claim to be educated that's saying now that the world is flat. So science is forever changing. One minute the scientists tell us the universe has always existed. The next minute we find out that there's a Big Bang theory, that the universe did come into being at a certain point in history. So that's the way science is. As new evidence is coming, as they begin to study and understand more about human nature, the universe, DNA, that science will adjust itself. But there's a skepticism when we deal with scientists and anthropology and anthropologists and stuff like that. Let me give you an example. They said the Bible's the only book. The Bible's the only book that speak about a group of people that are known as Hittites, Canaanites, Amorites. So a lot of scholars come to the Bible and they're skeptical about what the Bible say. But they found among some Assyrian writings that the Assyrians claim that they went to war with a group of people that were Hittites. I think this was just a couple of decades ago they found this out. But the Bible spoke of Hittites for over 2,000 years, 2,700 years ago. The Bible spoke about Hittites. So it's no big thing to us because we believe the book. We know that when it comes down to it, man may not understand everything, but we believe in the revelation that comes from the book. I think maybe later on we'll speak about seminary and when we look at the Bible critical, and what do we mean when we say textual criticism, because a lot of people are confused, and there are some pastors that don't want younger ministers and other people to know certain things about the Bible. But science, back to the science thing, science is forever changing. So I have people that constantly come to me and they talk about an oral tradition, which the scriptures were first handed down orally, even back in the Old Testament. From the very beginning, there were certain things that were written down, and there were certain things that was handed down orally to a people. But there's a skepticism that we have these days that's among scholars it's just ridiculous. I believe it was Dr. Evans. He might have said that we approach the Bible as a regular book to prove that it's not a regular book. We stick with the scriptures for a specific reason. A lot of people say, well, nobody in the Bible ever existed. Now we found evidence of outside extra biblical evidence from Hezekiah and so many other people in the Bible. Some are still in question, that we don't have evidence outside of the Bible, but we trust the biblical text. And like I said, there's Christians on all different educational levels, but we trust the biblical text. Somebody else said, well, Berean, you got to understand the Egyptians wrote down everything, and we don't have no evidence of Moses and the Israelites coming out of Egypt. I'm gonna put some stuff down on the bottom of the screen that y'all can check out. But we have to understand certain things when it comes to Moses and the Exodus. People say that the Egyptians wrote down everything. Y'all have to find out how they how the Egyptologists found out about the god Aten and the religion that came by way of Pharaoh Akhenaten. Now, Akhenaten was a pharaoh, but Egyptologists happened to stumble upon him because we found out that he was a god that he wanted to shut down all of the other priests. The priesthood controlled the religion in Egypt, and he wanted to shut down everything. And he told them that Aten was the one true God. Many people believe, Dr. Ben, other people believe that monotheism came from this one specific pharaoh, and they say Moses might have came about 80, 90 years later, and he picked up the same belief in a monotheistic God. This is one theory that a few people were throwing around back in the days, and some still hold to that right now. But when he died, the priest, it's a known fact that the priests went and they try to rub down everything. They reopened the temples of Osiris and Amun-Ra and the other gods that they were serving, and they did everything that they can do to get rid of Akhenaten, this one specific pharaoh. So we have to understand that the Egyptians didn't write down everything, just like human people. We have what Frank Turek, I believe it was. He has a good book. I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. Frank Turek, he said we have something that's known as the principle of embarrassment. That sometimes it's in our nature to cover certain things up. It's in human nature, or to have skeletons in our closets. It's in our nature to do certain things and to bring up some things, and it's in our nature just to put some things to the side and not talk about them. And that's an embarrassing factor to the priests that were in Egypt. So when people start saying the Egyptians wrote down everything, so they would have to have spoken about Moses and how God delivered his people from Egypt. But it's a known fact when we look at the Pharaoh Akhenaten, that the Egyptians, things that embarrassed them, things that had them mad, they attempted to erase. I just wanted to bring out this short thing. But we're at all different levels educationally far as Christians, but we put science where science belongs. I remember Gerald Massey said in maybe the 1850s in the Historical Jesus, the Mystical Christ, one of the chapters that was in that book, he said science will become the new religion. Science is not the religion for us, because science is forever changing, but the word of God abides forever. If you like what you heard, subscribe. You've been watching Berean TV. Thanks for watching.